Hello and welcome to a new episode of Other Record Labels. I'm your hostie with the mostie, Scott Orr, and we're going to talk about record label business plans today. I'm so excited because there's so much to dive in, and we have a brand new resource for you to download. And so if you're listening to this episode or watching this episode at a computer, you can, while I'm talking, because it'll be helpful for you to actually see it, I have a free template that you can use. Go to otherrecordlabels.com/business plan. That's all one word. otherrecordlabels.com/business plan. There's a link in all of the descriptions, and you can download a template that I've put together for you. And so today we're going to talk about what a record label business plan is, who it's for, what it's included, if you need one. And I have a template for you. And in that template, there is a PowerPoint presentation template that you can use, and there's a Word doc, and there's Google Slides link and a Google Docs link. And so basically you can create an outline of your business plan first, and then you can roll that into a PowerPoint presentation or a Google Slides presentation if you want, or you can just keep it as a Word doc, or you can have somebody design it all fancy and print it out as a booklet. So let's talk about real quick, what is a record label business plan? And then I'm going to answer 4 questions today. We're going to answer, well, the first one is, what is it? And the second one is, do you need one? And then the third question is, what's included? And then the fourth question is, who is it for? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive in. We have a template if you haven't already downloaded it. And if you're at a desk and you can, go to otherrecordlabels.com/business plan and download it so you can see what I'm talking about, because I'm going to list through some of the things that are included in it, and some of the things that can be included in it. There's quite a lot of things. So it's helpful if you can see what I'm talking about. So, And I would just want to say too, it's kind of interesting, and we talk about this in a couple of minutes, but a record label business then is primarily for a record label that hasn't launched yet. It's a thing you do that kind of helps give you clarity and give you vision at the beginning. But I think there's an argument as to why it's helpful for record labels at any stage, whether you've already been existing for a year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, or like me, you've been doing this for a long time, and I had a business plan or something similar to it back in the beginning 12 years ago. And as I'm putting this together, I'm thinking, you know what, this might be a good time to create a new one, and to kind of, because a lot has changed for me, and my goals and my abilities and everything has changed in the past 12 years. And so I'm kind of thinking, I might actually redo this. As I was putting this template together, I was like, maybe I should do this for my own label, because so much has changed, and I kind of need to cast a new vision, set some new goals, and that kind of thing. So what is it? Well, ideally, it's a presentation file. It's a presentation document, whether that's a PowerPoint presentation or, before PowerPoint, it would have been like a nice brochure, essentially. It can be something that's super simple. It could be black and white Word document printed off. It could be, a really consolidated and summarized adaptation of your vision and goals into like a nice booklet that you would maybe print hundreds off and hand off to investors and stuff. It's very different depending on what business you're in. In a record label business, you wouldn't necessarily make something too glamorous, but and you wouldn't have to print too many copies of it. And nowadays with digital, there's really no sense in printing anything. You can have a free Google Slides presentation or a PowerPoint presentation. And really what it is it's your goals and your vision and your mission statement of your record label, what you plan to achieve, what you hope to achieve, and how you actually, like, what your action steps are to make sure that you achieve that goal. Now, we're going to go into exactly what's inside one of these business plans, but that's the overall thought process. And we'll talk about this more in a minute, but it's ideally for investors or partners or maybe potential staff members or artists on the label to help understand your vision for your record label. So before we dive in a little further, let's answer the second question, which is, do you need one? And the answer to that is no, you do not need one. In fact, most of the labels who are listening to this right now probably said, I didn't have a business plan and I'm doing fine now. So why do I need a business plan? And we'll talk about that, but that's okay. But what I think I love about I just want to emphasize, you do not need one. I mean, especially if it costs you money, if you have to pay a graphic designer or you pay, I don't know if you want to pay a lawyer to put it together, but maybe you're not looking for partners. You're not looking for investors. You're not looking for people to catch your vision. It's all you. That's okay. That's fine. You don't need a business plan, but I still think a business plan is very helpful for you. I think it gives clarity and focus. I think, first of all, as I was putting together this sample business plan for the people who have purchased our everything bundle. They get this business plan that you're getting, the free template, but one that's an example that's completely filled out as if it was a real record label. And so as I was putting that together, I was realizing it gives you language. You know, when you're filling out bios on social media or you're filling out grant applications, you always need these like 1 or 2 sentence bios about your label or about your artist. And what I found helpful about a business plan is, as I was answering the questions that I've provided you and some of the subtopics, I'm realizing that as I'm filling and answering these out, it forces me to create language that I can then use on other places. So I like that it gives me language to use to describe my label and my goals and our purpose statement. It provides a framework, I think, in the future for you to know what to do and what not to do as a record label. I think that's really important, is that you're given all these opportunities. And I think it was Steve Jobs that said, the success is in what you say no to, not what you say yes to. That's butchering the quote. Who knows? Poor Steve. But anyhow, the idea is that this business plan will give you a framework so that when these opportunities come up upon you, that you can say, you know what, that's actually doesn't fit within our mission statement. Even though it's a cool opportunity and we actually might make some revenue from it, it doesn't really fit within our framework. And so a business plan gives you that. It also improves your communication. It keeps you accountable. And it gets what is all in your head down onto paper. And whether that's important for the people who are joining your team or are partnering with you, at the very least, it's helpful for you to get what's in your head, all of these goals and these dreams, and to get them onto the screen or onto paper. And then you could say, oh, well, it just so happens this is what's most important to me. And so I think, just going back to this question that we're answering of, do you need one? No, you don't need one. But remember what one of the primary ethos of other record labels is that it is this culmination of all of these small improvements that we can do with our record label, all of these compounding effect of micro improvements for their macro result. And so that's what I really think. I don't think there is any secret in the industry when somebody tries to sell you something that is the key to unlock something. I don't believe that ever to be true, whether that's in health and fitness or that's in investing or whatever that is. Or even in cooking, right? It's always just like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, that makes the whole thing. So that's what I think, that a record label business plan isn't essential necessarily for you, but it certainly is one of those key things that will help give you language, help you communicate your vision better. Okay, so what I want to talk about now is I want to answer the third question, which is what's included. And so if you have a copy of the template that I've provided with you, and all you have to do is click the link to download it for free. But if you have a copy of that template, then some of the things that are included, and again, this is your thing. There is no right or wrong way of doing this. I've included about 9 different topics and then a couple sub-questions in there. And I'm going to read them to you really quickly because there's another video. I've done a walkthrough video on how to make a record label business plan using the template that I provided. So you get that at otherrecordlabels.com/business plan. That walkthrough video is there. And it's a little bit more nuanced, a little more didactic. So I'm just going to kind of skim the surface for you in this episode. But in an introduction, we would have like your record label name and the owner name and a brief history of your experience and your certificates or training. Then there's a summary of the label. That's number 2, which is we have like your mission statement or your unique selling point. You know that I always talk about how important, we talk about this with our guests, how important it is for record labels to have some sort of unique drive, unique selling point, something that makes them really special and gives them a little bit of an advantage. And I give a few of those examples in the walkthrough video that you can watch right now after this, if you want. So that's in the summary. The third thing is a SWOT analysis, which is a very popular thing in business, and that is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So it's really helpful for you to outline on paper. Again, this is even just for you to say, these are the things that I'm strong in. These are the things that I'm weak in, and be honest. These are the opportunities that I think are unique and exclusive to our record label. And then these are the threats that could make this thing fail. And even in threats, you want to be honest with yourself and say, and I was speaking with someone today in email about this exact thing. They identified a threat that they had, which is that they have a hard time sticking with things, that they get really excited, they get that entrepreneurial seizure, but then they have a hard time sticking with things. So that's something you might want to actually write down on paper and share with an investor or a partner, or even just for yourself to acknowledge, you know, what's really threatening this record label is me just kind of giving up and not seeing it through and not sticking with it for months and years that it needs. Number 4 is label objectives. So having an overarching priority, maybe having top 3 objectives that are important to your label, whether those are financial objectives or those are more, philosophical or philanthropical objectives. I'm not great with words, so it's tough for being a podcaster. Short-term goals, like something you want to achieve in year 1, and then maybe 3 long-term goals that you want to achieve in the next 1 to 3 or 5 years. Number 5 is label operations. You can include that, your personnel and the people that have come on board to help you, whether it's just you or how you plan to partner with different people. Do you have an accountant or a lawyer to help you out? Number 6 is label services. So that's stuff like A&R and manufacturing, distribution. What you really want to do when you're putting this together, and I've created this outline for you that you can really just answer these as questions, but just put together 1 or 2 sentences of these that answers, what do you have in place for manufacturing? What's your advantage or your plan for distribution and for marketing? Number 7 is record label branding. So that's things like aesthetic and your target market, your customer avatar. Do you have an ideal customer in mind? Someone that you think is most likely, of course there are exceptions, but someone you think is most likely to support and to appreciate your music or your label or your brand. Some market research that you've done. Also, number 8 is financial strategy. So what are your initial costs? What are your initial funding sources? Projected revenue for year 1, year 2, year 3. You want to be really, really humble and realistic in these projections, right? You don't want to say year 1, our goal is to make 100,000. I mean, that's a great goal, and congratulations if you achieve it, but it's very, you want to be a little bit more realistic. Think maybe 10% of that. And then number 9 in this summary, and I'm sorry, we'll move on. I just wanted to make sure you knew all of these things that can be included, is the record label summary. So just kind of consolidating everything that you've put together, your mission statement, what's your plan to launch this label? What's that timeline look like for you? What is your overall year 1 strategy, your audience growth and your roster growth and your catalog growth and your financial growth? What are those for year 1s? And then do you have a 5-year strategy? And then finally, do you have an accountability process? Do you have an accountability plan in place so that if you don't achieve these, that someone can kind of help you make sure you do achieve them in the next 6 months or the next year, or is there a way? And we talk about this in the free walkthrough video that you can also get, and which is basically a way to kind of say every month is to maybe draw up a little summary, to look at your analytics, to look at your sales, and say this is what we achieved this month, and now let's compare it to next month or the previous month, and then to maybe do that quarterly and to do that yearly. It doesn't have to be a big thing. So that's what's included in a record label business plan. The last thing I want to talk about is who is it for? Why are you doing this? And so there's 3 kind of groups of people that I think it can be for, and it could be for all 3 groups. It can be for 2 of the 3 or just 1 of them, or maybe you have a unique purpose for your own business plan. And I should just say, remember, generally this is an internal document. This isn't really something that the fans would see. Maybe supporters or patrons, perhaps, but this is an internal document. But here are the 3 groups I would think it's for. Number 1 is an investor. I've been saying that all along. Not a lot of labels get investors, but some people will get like maybe their parents or their grandparents or a family member or a close friend to be an investor. it could be for a partner. And what I mean by partner is a couple things. It could be actually someone that you bring along who you give a 50% or a certain percentage stake in the company. Or it could be a partner, could be just an organization like an accountant who you're going to pay by the hour, you're going to pay for their services, but in a way they're kind of partnering with you. And so those are kind of, that's kind of one of the groups of people. And I think those people, if they're going to put any skin in the game or any cash in the game, then they need to know your vision instead of you just kind of taking them out for coffee and having verbal diarrhea and just saying everything that comes to mind. It's really helpful if you have a nice little document or an iPad with the PowerPoint slide that I've provided for you that you can tweak to your own purposes and match your own brand and your own aesthetic. But, to put something like that together and to show them that you're organized. And I think this is if you're starting a record label, I think this is a really good exercise for you to do, because if you can't put together this outline, and if you can't take this outline and put it into a small presentation file, which should really take you a week or 2 weeks to put this whole thing together, if you can't accomplish that, then you're going to have a really hard time running a record label for the next 10 years. So this is something that I think is really important, because it shows the people that you're bringing on board that you're serious and that you're organized and that you know why you're doing this. You have a reason, because I think what they want to see is this person going to get out of bed every day and be fired up about this project? Is there an objective? Is there a mission statement in here that is something that resonates with them so much that it'll make it hard for them to quit? And so that's why this is, number one, I think is a group of investors or partners to see and to understand your vision. The second thing that's kind of cool, the second group that might benefit from this is the artists. And so future signings. Now, what you might want to do, and this is something I did back in the early days of my record label, is I created an artist package, an introduction package. It was called the Artist Introduction Package, I think. And it was basically my mission statement, it was basically my business plan, but a little bit scaled back for an artist's perspectives, for them to catch my vision, to see what we were doing with the funds, some of the charitable causes we were passionate about. It was a big package, and we would go through it, and we would meet for like 2 hours in a coffee shop and go through this whole package. And so you might want to create a business plan for you, but then you might also want to create one for an artist. And so you could you could show them the exact business plan that you would show an investor or a partner. But you could tweak it a little bit and remove some of the stuff that doesn't pertain to them specifically. But that might be a great way when you're bringing an artist on and signing to your label, that they can really catch your vision and understand what you stand for and what you value. And the final thing, and I've said this all along, the final group who this is for, I think, is you. And if it's you and a partner, getting on the same page as your partner, or even just writing it down on paper, is so important. Get everything that's up here in your head down onto paper or onto the screen, I think is incredibly helpful. There's a great quote: "What gets measured gets managed." And so when we look back over our first year and say, "Oh, we forgot to do this goal," or "We didn't accomplish this," or "We didn't accomplish that," that's maybe because we didn't write it down and we didn't commit to it, and we didn't post it on our wall or review it every month or review it every quarter. And so what gets measured gets managed. And I think that's something that you'll find with this record label business plan, is that, and why I think it's beneficial for people like me who've been doing this for a while, to actually stop and to create a new business plan and to outline my goals again, and to redraft my mission statement, and as things have changed, to make an update on my financial plans and everything like that. And so I hope that you found this helpful. This is something that some of our audience members have been asking for, and I know some people who come to our website and download some of our resources have been interested in this. And I didn't want you to just go grab a business plan from some business website, because it may not be relevant to record labels. And so I wanted to create something for you that would be relevant to our audience, and remove some of the stuff that's not helpful. And you can totally remove, when I went through that whole list, you can totally remove things that aren't relevant for you or for your situation. That's totally fine. Make sure you grab this free template. Go to otherrecordlabels.com/business plan. And where there's going to be a little bit of write-up on business plan, what I've talked about today. You can get my walkthrough video of me creating one. And then, of course, there is the more completed version of the template that's available to our Everything Bundle members, anybody who's purchased that bundle in the past can get access to it. And then anybody who grabs it in the future will get access to the record label business plan that is a little bit more comprehensive and a little bit more, well, it's just a filled out example. But either way, go to otherrecordlabels.com/business plan to download your free template on PowerPoint, Word, and Google Slides and Google Docs and the PDF and whatever you need. Thank you so much for listening.